thought I might do right now, since I just had some medicine and it's been a couple of days, and a lot has gone on in those couple of days, and I thought I would describe, because there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of wrong information out there to do with it. I'm not going to name it so that I potentially don't run the risk of getting in any trouble, and I'm not a medical doctor or anything like that, but this is just an anecdotal explanation of how this manifests in me, what the effects are. This is called science. So immediately I have a consistent, there's a slight, you could describe it as dullness, but that's pretty blunt tool. It's not dullness. It's a slight, immediately almost could be described as an anticipation feeling, or as this, if you chased that, it could be fear, or it could, there's a lot of different ways that particular feeling can show up, but that's the initial kind of thing. Then for myself personally, because I've become accustomed to what's going on, I no longer have any fear around it. There was a lot of fear put out when I was a kid about it, so that was a process I had to go through, which I'm hoping that other people don't. And then the way I would describe it now is like a cliff has appeared in front of me. That's where the feeling comes from. That's the kind of, that can be the anticipation feeling. If you all of a sudden had a cliff standing in front of you, you'd feel a bit unsteady. That cliff for me personally manifests, or starts assembling now that I'm kind of practiced, as lots of things that I've done since last being in this state, and how I'm going to like map them away, process those things, and get back to where I consider optimal, which is what I'll do. If I'm optimal, it means I'm free. I can move around, I can dance around, I can be wacky. There's no kind of feelings of restriction. It's just openness, and I'm there, and I'm positive and good. So that's where I'm trying to get back to. And I'm not far away, so it's not terribly big. If you're unexperienced, especially if you're young, those can be quite big things, and especially when you're young, those things can actually not be a lot of answers, because the whole process is that you're figuring these things out when you're young. So that's why young people should stay away from it a little bit, especially those early years. You want to get a sober interpretation of the world under your belt before you start fucking around with chemicals, no matter whether they're natural or not. So yeah, this is the position I'm in now. And because I'm used to it, I'm positive. I know what I'll be doing from now for the rest of the day. I will be processing all the interactions, all the communication, all the situations, all my body stuff, all my eating stuff, all the parental responsibility. Every single thing starts getting narrowed down, and not just a plan, not just like an itinerary, like a plan, and also a decompression of perhaps the stressful situations over the last couple of days, or the confrontations, and I start mapping out everyone's interpretation of this, so I can get an accurate model of who I'm dealing with, what they're going through, why these conflicts are coming, all these things. This is called work. This is called due diligence. This is what comes in the position that I find myself in my family, whether people acknowledge it or not. That is where I am. This is my job. This is my role. And this particular medicine assists me in doing that role, and doing it in what could be a pretty scary time, because there's lots of change coming, and change is stressful, and I have to attempt to try and navigate a whole bunch of people through this change, because that's my responsibility again. So yeah, I hope that's explained clearly something that was perhaps dark in the dark. Yeah, I can't do it because I'd have to look right in the sun. So I'm half in the dark. Blah, blah. Yeah, something that was maybe in the dark. And when things are in the dark, people create things and are fearful, but there's nothing scary, there's nothing weird, there's nothing strange. It's just, yeah. It's a useful tool for certain people at certain times in certain situations to impact their life in a positive way, in my experience. So, yeah. I'll get back to it. Thought I'd also say, so the interaction that cigarettes have immediately, I start to notice the negative, astronomical negative things that come with these more intensely. And so, strangely, one will lead this one out the door. Thank God, because they're absolutely gross. I didn't have the same reaction with vape ever, although there was a negative. That did lead to a new type of negative. This immediate negative wasn't there, so that's double-edged sword. That's probably what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, I think, a better alternative that has a new threat. And I was told that by this amplification of sensitivity initiated by the medicine that I spoke about before. Makes me wonder why it's being classed as illegal rather than as a tool for clarity, for an extra sensory tool to tune into the more finer details of anything, including governance or decision making or family politics or any of these large chaotic systems that we interact with. We need to increase the fidelity of those communication methods and networks and systems. And this particular medicine is a very good tool for that. So we have to ask ourselves why it's illegal and why it's not being openly spoken about like this. Why there's a lot of external PR on both sides where people are either all for it or all against it, but there isn't actually proper conversations going on at this level because we're all afraid to, because it's illegal. And we're all afraid to because also that comes with this is a non-confrontational thing, different type of confrontation. I will still be confrontational, but through a different lens. So a lot of people basically don't want to open up a massive argument with the government about something from this space because they're communicating on a finer detail, and the government's got a big, blunt, dull instrument that they're whacking around willy-nilly with interconnections into people's families and people's well-being and employments and future projections. And yeah, we've got to get a bit more grown up. We've got to be able to have conversations. We've got to, take the things out of the dark and talk about them. And that's what I'm doing. So, yeah, I'd love any participation from anyone that might be wanting to make that leap from that other place down. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Just notice this bloke landed down there. Look at this right here, ready? Oh, he's gone. He wouldn't even let me see him. I don't know what he is. He sat down there next to those 3 lambs. And yeah, looked like maybe a yellow-crested. He's too far away now, so I can't see him. Like a yellow-crested. I'm gonna have to fucking do this. Turn my phone on me to speak to myself. A yellow-crested cockatoo, the ones that have come over from over east, but he didn't have the yellow. And you almost never see them by themselves. And now he's flown off again. No yellow crest. Just appeared to be all white. That's why I was trying to zoom in and I missed it, which I'm a little bit disappointed in. But isn't that interesting? And then if you go into like the more ethereal plane, I'd be like, there's an energy of a male presence. He's flown off again, trying to get a better look at him. He's very far away, trying to like see what type of flight he does. So if I see it again at any point, I'll know. And that's it. That's an interaction I've never experienced before. And I find it unbelievably interesting, and I'm all right with being that boring. I'm okay to make that leap into talking about a bird. And I don't mind. It feels appropriate to where I am, and I can only put that down to one thing, and that's because I had children young, and as they get older, my responsibility levels change and go to different places, and so that was, I'm sure that's what that bird's doing. That's the energy I got. He's sussing something out for the flock or for the, and there's lots of those interactions all overlapping and going on between all different animals and species, and there is a never-ending ocean of observations you can make if you can be there for a moment. That's where this ADD, it's like the amount of things I'm computing now keep me endlessly amused, and it's all going into a little database, and that's where all that ADD energy is meant to go. They're not, the ADD kids are probably the largest, smartest, most, they've got the capability that's actually being underutilized by the education system, not the other way around. Don't need to speed them up. You got to show them more and show them how to independently do it, as opposed to, forcing their thing, because they've got way more energy. They're doing this at 1,000 times what I'm doing. A lot of the heavy lifting I did in this place was done when I was a child, and it was because I was allowed to interact there freely. And that is the most valuable thing that my mother ever gave me. So with negatives is also an amazing, there's far more positives than there are negatives, but the negatives need to be addressed, because that's how we fix things, is by observing, paying close attention, and being able to freely speak is vital. Right, put my doctor shirt on from a couple of years ago. I had this shirt on, I think, unless I'm remembering wrong. That'd be fucked. It's pink, so I seem more friendly, because I'm a doctor. I'm friendly. I'm genuinely a friendly person. Happy-go-lucky, friendly, friendly neighbourhood doctor. But not a doctor. Legal disclaimer, Shannon Wise is actually not a doctor. He's just put on a pink shirt and is talking shit in his shed. Because of this casino gambling boomer experiment, you've all left your children in the car, so you're going to need to set up a lot of that health money, because there's not a lot we can actually do about getting old, really. There's just been a lot of money spent in telling you. There are things there are things that are really good, and there's a whole bunch of things that aren't good. So there's definitely a Pareto distribution in medicine right now. So we need to find out what the 20% of good is and get rid of the 80%. That's big. That's a big thing to do.
But that 80% is going to go into a more like wellness, actually rehabilitation type thing would be the better way to describe it. This is what I was going to say in this video. You've fucked up your children, all of you. It's all right because you all did it, so you all get to give each other a big hug as well while you go through that. And you've done all these things that we can definitely fix, which is cool. And but we just need to we need to fix these interactions first. Then we can fix all the other things. So this is, it's an everybody problem, and it's an everybody's got a pitch in problem, which is cool. These problems, historically speaking, bring people together. It's amazing. But it's not a stressful thing. It's just like, we're all gonna, I don't know, just give this thing a go because it's gonna be interesting and fun and new, and there's a lot of good feelings are gonna come from it. So that's cool as well. But yeah, those interactions are causing all this like ripple-in effect, and that's not good. So yeah, it's amazing what happens when you put the doctor shirt on. Yeah, and so that money's got to go somewhere, or there's lots of money that's the worst bit. When money goes somewhere in our current systems, it amplifies it, sometimes like disconnected from connections with like common sense and practicalism and actual like long-term best interests is one that goes out pretty early. Long-term best interests, nah, we could just make some money. That happens all the time. It happens way too much now. So we've got to slow that down. But we need somewhere for that money to go so that we don't have a big wobble. So, but it's the same. It's the same staff. It's just different training, different methodology, different interactions, less product, more flow, which makes this is what so many people at work, you're stuck in this system. It's really boring. It's like a machine. It doesn't really do anything. But that's all able to be fixed on a government level. It's really fun. We don't even need to compete out. We just take all that funding and put it into really good training services, which is all part of it anyway, because those spaces and systems that you're going to use to fix everyone's interactions, you're going to also use for like team building and stuff. And it's not communist because it's individually driven at each place, because that's where the focus is. That's just, that was like me pulling into the straight at Formula One, and I'm just like, right, I could keep going, but I don't want to. I just want to stay there. How about that? Yeah, like team building. This is all going to be huge. And that's also the healing stuff. That's also the health stuff. That's also and it's like we are blessed with the most abundant place ever that are being underused, like at a crazy rate. It's just, there's a few little financial incentives we've got to build in to make it kind of work for everyone. There's got to be a few guidelines. These can exist parallel to like all different places. So they're like, mixed, really highly developed. So you know what I mean? This started here with like little parks. You put a park bench somewhere. That's it. That's the base. It's actually the same thing. We've just gotten shit for a bit because we had a tool that worked really well in this kind of online promotional mathematic paradigm. But we have to go back to our roots and go, alrighty, we went a bit crazy with that. Now we're going to fix these other things. We've done it all before. Everyone, for me, it doesn't even feel that long ago. Like I was just there. I was like, it was way better. Then you guys fucked up. I don't know what happened. And it's just been landing very specifically in my hands in the last week, where I'm like, right, that's where all this shit went fucking wrong. It's just right there. It's like, oh no. That's how I felt. Not a like, oh, it's just a, oh, bugger, oops. Like that. That is Australia. We literally had an ad that was just, because that is so much Australia. That bugger. We can process shit like that down here. It's just like, whoops. Like asbestos, whoops. Things like that. It's great. We just deal with it. It becomes in us and we get fucking strong because of it. Because we're like, yeah, we went and built a big bunch of fucking getaways, country getaways, where everyone just kind of could decompress, sit around the campfire and have a fucking cone and have a little chinwag, and then we just rebuilt the whole thing, fucking pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and just flogged it till the cows came home. And now look what we've got. You guys should have fucking listened to us. That's where we can be. That's a really interesting place to be. It's the best place to be. It's the very basis of every part of Australia that I love is that ideal. And fuck me, sometimes I'm a good salesman. That's why I don't do it all the time. If I did that all the time, I'd get lost. It's just there when I need it. It's like a trick. It's like a stylistic thing, because I come from a sporting, intense thing that is very stylistic. This is skateboarding and bodyboarding, rollerblading as well. We're going to bring it back, and of course breakdancing, which we've shown that we are the best in the world at. So fuck, there's nothing else that we cannot do when we put our minds to it down here. So isn't that wonderful, a wonderful thing? If you remember, this is the shirt I was wearing that was up there. It's been up there around, like it's been absorbing all that light and crystal energy. So it's maybe, or maybe it doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. You do you. You do whatever you're doing. Fuck, I said a lot in this one. Yeah. Cool. Just sort of something down here. I came down in the trees to snap sticks because it's fun. I thought of I think the Nazi experiment that we keep obviously focusing on quite heavily. It's often brought up as an example. We haven't healed from that fucking absolute craziness. Nowhere near it. But the way I just thought about it was, it's like an inevitable maximum. Whenever we progress down a certain path, there's always going to be an inevitable maximum. And that's it. It's happened. We had the inevitable maximum craziest situation. Yeah. So it's all, we can only get better from there. We did the worst thing. What are we going to do? It's the worst thing. We did it a couple of times. And now we're like, holy shit, better not fucking do that again. And I think we're all somewhere there. It's good. We're not completely there, but we're better. And we've been up the top. Fucking hell. And we're on the way down to where we can, and things like, it's the ultimate expression of racism. And it's a silly idea. It's the wrong way. It's very, very, very silly. It actually leads to so much work, so much weirdness. And again, something we're constantly getting better at. So we've been at the worst of it, and we're the first ones to even try to get better. So pat ourselves on the back there. You've got to start somewhere, and we're well on the way to making things a lot better. Also, this is like a good physics experiment here, and I'm well out of the way from where it would fall, which is important thing to teach people how to test things. It's kind of technical. This should be a basic skill you learn at school, but you don't really, because they make everything really safe.
So I'm out of the way where this can fall, and I can pull down and test this branch. But weirdly, this is holding like there'll be a certain amount of weight. And I don't need any weight, I don't need any steel, I don't need any ropes, I don't need any cables, it's just that. And yeah, so I'm doing like 7 things here at the same time. There's also a lot of like stimulation to do, like if you just break twigs off, you can hear the noise of them. I'm learning like 1,000 things a minute. And we're definitely not destroying the bush by doing this. It's, the bush is real tough. And yeah, it's not until you get to chainsaws and axes and bulldozers and tractors and fire and all those things that we really get into trouble. And that was all you lot. So, yeah. The dangers of the drop bears. This is a notorious drop bear that is often told to be lurking in all kinds of waterways. They call it sometimes a bilby, sometimes they call it a fucking drop bear, sometimes they call it a yowie, and all kinds of names, but fuck me, they're fucking terrifying. I come out of there and I once had a yowie fucking rip half my testicle off. That's why I can't have any more children. Fucking yowie attack.
Something my dad told me that popped into my head. It was due to his interaction with English naval captains and things like that. He was worked at Christmas Island and had a lot to do with the logistics of things going in and out of there. And so we'd have these interactions. I think it was, like a combination store for military and different things. And he said, I think it was when he was quite young, and he had an interaction where one of them said, I want an Englishman, not an Australian. And I think this is something that we carry down here as Australians, but I see it far different now. I see it as though, no, I'm actually more English than a lot of English people, because I think when you cast off from a place, not knowing where you're going, somewhere completely crazy, you put importance into maintaining certain aspects to remain linked to your homeland. And when those long journeys are made, which in my case is 180 years, really to connect back to England, and I haven't even been there. I've done it here, and I've done it by looking at things. And the definition of that I've had access to is far greater. And so it's been very interesting. So I am both, and I'm proud of both. I'm proud of the long journey I've made as an Australian English person. And either of those stand on their own ground. And I believe it's people from in my position that can explain this thing that's getting a lot of bad press. You'll find it's very undeserving, I think. And that may come as a relief to certain people, it may come as a shock to other people, it may come as a confrontation with a hard truth, or there's lots of ways that can come up. But these stories are all important to shape an accurate depiction of this place and all the places. And I basically got sick of as I was discovering more things that were to be celebrated, I was hearing nothing but backseat driving. And so I protected both my homelands because our connection with that past is beautiful and wonderful. And the whole of humanity went through that evolutionary journey where we've improved so many things, and to pinpoint that on specific previous systems or leaders or rulers it requires a lot of work to do properly. So a skimming over of that history is not adequate for giving a full critique, and especially if you are under the blanket of that. I think that's where a bit of humility and a bit of responsibility to actually ground yourself in where you are and what's going on and what's gotten better and who's been responsible for that and all these things, then that requires a lot of work. So I think everyone's always happy to hear it, but it's just make sure you're putting in the work and not skimming over the top and jumping onto a stereotypical analysis or something that's being spoon-fed to you in the form of promotion. It requires a lot of work, and you got to get in and dig, and yes, there's skeletons and there's negative things to find, and there's also a lot of positive, and you've got to. It takes a big step to step into the shoes of anyone that would have been in those positions. So, take that step and have a look around and do it quietly and respectfully and on your own. And I guarantee you will be both shocked, but more so you'll be surprised, and you'll feel connected to what I feel is a wonderful thing overall. Whenever giving out tons of critical advice, it's also really important to come back and criticize yourself, which I'm going to do. So a lot of times when I'm mapping out these things and I use a simplistic term like boomers, these mass stereotypes, one thing you need to know about me now, and there's no way for me to dot point this and put this in every video, it'd be stupid, but just, this is here, is that's how I fucking map things out. That's how I do it. It's rough. It's like a first draft. It's like, I don't know, fucking, and I'm just doing that in this thing because I'm still writing, still formulating down. It would take me a long time to formulate that into specifics, and that's what I'm doing in doing this. So I think this effect to look for conspiracy and look for these different things, we just literally have 1 degree of like incentive, like ingrained trend. There's some type of really small point of change in that generation that is not even a change, it's just a nudge into a different place slightly. It's just just a little boom. Hey, granddad hip, like a fake hip and shoulder. And it'd be wonderful. I just feel it strongly because it helps me dig deeper into the problem. I use that intensity of conflict to dig deeper into specifics. I'm sorry, it works for me, and so you got to put big boy shoes on if you're going to come and watch these. But it's fucking sun. That is amazing. They're not, it's like a tiny little bit of change. It's just, there's not a lot of answers. All the products are being sold to like the wrong thing, a lot of showbiz about it. Like we need gentler things in there. And like a lot of it is about motivating. I think men who have kind of given up and they're really stuck, a lot of them. And so it's that, and that's a point that we can change, like just, but you've got to be sensitive to the fact that they've built some pretty serious walls around themselves. If this is the wall I'm building and I'm like this, imagine what someone who hasn't spoken in 50 years is like, or someone that's that disillusioned by the world that they're just locked off, and it's so that you need really men to probably make those leaps, and I am not the best at it because I'm at a different thing. So I think men need to start having conversations with the older, and I see a lot of it going on. This is the thing about men. Men are fucking unbelievably capable and competent, and they will autonomously organise once they're given kind of a rough direction, because we're doers. It's just some of the directions are wrong. There's conflicting generational, like, stagnation and stratification, and we just got to get a bit. I think my generation, like, just give him a bump. You know what I mean? Shift him off. Get used to, like, yeah, they want to hand stuff over, and they want to, but it's like, that's intense. That's for another time. That's a deep fucking subject. If I start getting into men interactions, it's like, you'll see why there's, yeah. But I'm also, the thing with men is I trust men. I know we're going to do it. I know we're going to fucking figure this thing out. Yeah, like, there's no doubt on that it's gonna work. We just got to find the places, re-find our courage and our commitment to stand on our own 2 feet, and to take a risk, to try something, to step outside a bit. And we need to also get a lot better at, like, defending each other. See, I could be a footy coach, couldn't I? We really need to defend each other back there, boys. This is what football is wonderful. This is the same as cricket. That talk. That's why every good coach is always saying, keep that talk up, boys. Keep it up. Keep tight, keep the thing, go through it, contact, all that stuff. That's 80%. It's fucking huge. It's huge. And we do it on the field, but we are seriously lacking off the field. So, yeah. And we got to get back to that. What a weird fucking day.